a lot of people are saying like, oh, now institutions will buy into Bitcoin and the ETFs, but it hasn't been that great for the ETFs like Fidelity, Bitwise, VanEck, Schwab, Valkyrie, even Kathy Wood's like ARK Invest,
Right. And the Grayscale
Grayscale.
Bitcoin Trust, I guess, converted to an actual ETF, I think was the deal.
Yeah, so the Valkyrie Bitcoin fund is down 36% in a week. And
Really?
Grayscale is down 9%, Fidelity is down 9, ARK Invest is down 11%. So
So
it's
the
like,
funds are down because Bitcoin is down, but it's
mhm,
not down that much,
right.
right?
Bitcoin's down like a couple percentage points this
Yeah.
week, two or three maybe. So that just shows you that if you're buying something that is pegged to a spot price, especially something like Bitcoin that is very volatile, I'm not sure I get it. Like, I'm not sure why anybody would buy them.
All right. Welcome to the Angel Research Podcast. My name is Jason Freert, and I'm here with Alex Boulden,
What's up?
managing editor of Insider Stakeout. Is that
What do
your
we do?
title? Managing editor, chief investment officer,
Uh, yeah, I like managing editor. I feel like
managing editor.
that's what I'm doing
Yeah.
these days. So,
Cool.
um,
Well, welcome back to the show. I think we're gonna talk about some crypto today, right? So
yeah.
it's January. We just had, was it last week? Was the final Bitcoin ETF approval,
Mm-hmm.
which was kind of a weird way that it happened. So it was anticipated, right, for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and crypto's running up. I don't know. It's in about a year, it went from a low of 16,000 up to 45,000
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah. Like 40. It was touching 47.
And so, but prior to the announcement, the SEC, I guess they were hacked. Like their
Mm.
The Twitter
Oh, right.
feed was
Yeah, I remember
hacked.
that.
Yeah, and so they basically, I don't know exactly how the story about how they were hacked, but they tweeted out that it was
Approved.
approved.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Never mind." They took it down. They said they said their Twitter account was hacked.
Yeah. I wonder if it was actually hacked or if somebody on the inside just like
I
posted that.
Well, because basically they actually put the approval out
Yeah.
like what, the next day or like 2 days later.
I think so.
So
Yeah.
they had it all. Maybe they had it all queued up,
Yeah. And
and
someone.
someone hit the button, and they were like, "Oh, never mind, we were hacked."
Yeah.
That's the ultimate way for people online to like backtrack, is just be like, "Oh, I was hacked."
Yeah. It was AI.
Yeah, that's the new one. Oh, AI took over my Twitter account. But it actually is approved now, and
Mm-hmm.
so what can you tell us about all that? Because I'm a crypto guy, but I haven't really been following too much of the ETF situation.
Yeah. I was originally pretty excited about the ETFs because they're going to follow the spot price of Bitcoin.
Right. So, and they did have futures ETFs, I guess, already, but that's different between
Yeah.
the actual spot price.
Yep. I mean, I guess you could look at it like gold. You could have futures trading, but you could also have spot price of gold, which it's just the amount of volume and the prices that people are paying for Bitcoin.
Right.
Um, and I thought that the ETFs would kind of open up. A lot of people are saying like, oh, now institutions will buy into Bitcoin and the ETFs, but it hasn't been that great for the ETFs. Like, you had Fidelity. I think there were like 12 in total that were approved last
Right.
week. Fidelity, Bitwise, VanEck, Schwab, Valkyrie, even Kathy Wood's like ARK Invest,
Right. And the
um,
Grayscale
Grayscale.
Bitcoin Trust, I guess, converted to an actual ETF, I think was the deal.
Yeah. So in total, there were on the day that it was approved, there was $4.6 billion in volume in trading volume, just on the first day. So that's pretty huge. But overall, I say it's been a disaster for the actual funds. I mean, the Valkyrie Bitcoin fund is down 36% in a week, and
Really?
uh, Grayscale is down 9%, Fidelity is down 9, Ark Invest is down 11%. So
So
it's
the
like
funds are down because Bitcoin is down, but it's
mhm,
not down that much,
right.
right?
Bitcoin's down like a couple percentage points this
Yeah.
week, two or three maybe. Uh, so that just shows you that if you're buying something that is pegged to a spot price, especially something like Bitcoin that is very volatile, I'm not sure I get it. Like, I'm not sure why anybody would buy them. Why wouldn't you just buy Bitcoin?
Yeah, I guess it is. The only thing I can think of is that people are just so used to going into their brokerage account
Mm-hmm.
and typing in a ticker
Yeah.
symbol and hitting buy. And so when it's actual Bitcoin, it's like, wait, I have to uh, do another thing, Coinbase or
Right.
something, or and
Um,
then there's keys involved, and so I guess it's just a little bit more complicated.
right.
But I agree with you. Like I own Bitcoin. Like I actually own Bitcoin. I'm
Yeah.
not buying an ETF. Like I'm
No,
because
because you're not a nerd.
so. But I can see how someone, especially when crypto first came out, or just Bitcoin first came out, we had a lot of subscribers that were interested in it, especially
Right.
when it ran up, dramatically. It's in the news and all that. I was like, how can I do it? It's like, well, you gotta open up a Coinbase account,
Right.
or there was definitely other exchanges. I mean, Coinbase is like the main one. I guess Gemini is still going. That's the Winklevoss twins exchange.
Yeah, I've
There's a
never used that
Yeah,
one,
there's a couple other ones,
but
but you had to do that, and then the fees were kind of high because it was so new, and so you had to go through all these hoops. Whereas now, just like you might buy, I don't know, Microsoft through your Schwab account or even Robinhood
yep.
account,
Yep.
you can now do that with um, and have exposure, I guess,
Right.
to Bitcoin. That's the
Yeah.
key word there,
Yeah.
exposure.
That's a good point. That's a fair point. But yeah, I mean, you can download Robinhood and buy Bitcoin through or any crypto. Not any crypto, but you can buy crypto through Robinhood. I think Coinbase has the most, some of the most options. Um, but Coinbase itself has been in the news this week as well. There's an SEC lawsuit against them, and apparently they're at risk of losing 30% of their revenues, like just this week, from this lawsuit.
Okay,
So,
what's the lawsuit actually say?
um, so let's see. I took this from my source. It's about the crypto tokens traded
Mm-hmm.
on Coinbase and how they would or would not qualify as security. So I guess the SEC
Oh,
is saying that they should qualify as
right.
securities, and Coinbase is arguing against that. Um, the stock itself is down. I wrote. I think it was last week or the week before that you should open up a short on Coinbase,
Uh-huh.
and it's down, dude. 22%.
Wow.
Um, I should have done that. I should have taken my own advice on that.
They
Um,
so basically that was always an ancillary way to play
hmm
crypto, right? Is hey, because I mean even now like I have a Coinbase account. When you if you look at the fees that they
Oh my
charge,
god, it's
it's
insane.
insane. It's insane compared to, what now when you have most brokerages, they're offering like free trading. And
Right.
so, but I mean, if you buy, you know, several $1,000s worth of any crypto on there, you're going to be paying, unless you become like a premium member on their
Mm-hmm.
like thing, you're going to be paying like a few $100s in trading
Yeah,
fees.
that's bullshit.
And you know, it if you're buying, you know, and it goes up because it's a percentage. So you know, even if you're buying 20, 30,000, you know, it's hundreds of dollars worth of trading fees,
Yep.
which kind of can eat into your profits. But so that was always a way to kind of play it. Is that's the one publicly traded crypto company. The other is, I guess, miners, which you have messed around in the past. I know you've had in the portfolio. What's your
Mm-hmm.
take on miners? Would this ETF thing have any impact on that, on the miners, or is it more just? I mean, they're actually physically getting
Yeah.
the Bitcoin.
I don't see it having an impact on the miners, but what I do see having an impact is the Bitcoin halving that's coming up.
Right.
So I think that because right now I don't know what the exact number of Bitcoins that a miner will get. I think I'm not sure. It's in the range of like 4 to 7. I can't remember,
Mm-hmm.
but that gets halved, right? Every
Right.
time it gets halved. Um,
So essentially, they have to expend twice as much energy to get the same reward,
hmm.
quote unquote, back. And so that sort of it continues to mess with the economics, which is kind of I mean one of the things that's fascinating about Bitcoin is
Yeah.
that this was all put in the beginning, this whole halvening process that goes through
Mm-hmm.
to sort of, you know, adjust the economics as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm used to, if it costs me, and it's just like gold mining, right? If Bitcoin's trading at, you know, $40,000, and it costs me $20,000 in energy and the hardware all to mine a Bitcoin, then I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But if suddenly that's cut in half, then it just drastically changes the economics like overnight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean it should adjust Bitcoin for inflation, and it should also make Bitcoin more valuable in theory over
Right.
time, which is it's kind of cool that it's all baked in. But also, people are arguing that the halvening or halvening is it the
The
halvening
happening,
halving?
the having.
It's already baked into the price of Bitcoin
Right.
at this point. So um, I don't
Yeah.
know what my take on that is, but
Yeah. There's a lot of things. I mean, this is the first time you have the idea of the ETFs sort
mm-hmm.
of coming into play, quote unquote, almost at the same time that a halvening is taking place or having, which I think is still set for around April or
Yeah,
May.
yeah, that's what I'm
Um,
hearing.
so usually it run like usually a having, you know, before there's a little bit of a runoff, and it does tend to kick off like a bull market in the crypto market, specifically starting with Bitcoin, and then then
Mm-hmm.
the Ethereums and some of these other quote unquote shit coins, as I call them, like follow in. Um,
Dogecoin.
yeah, Dogecoin. I've never bought Dogecoin or Dogecoin or whatever the hell it's called.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, so there's just a lot more exposure now, and the prices continue to rise, and then you also have the potential for interest rates to come into play, which seems to be
mm,
a driver for a lot of this stuff. So, um, you know, that's something to consider as we head in. It seemed like there was some thought that they might start cutting rates
mm-hmm.
soon,
Yeah.
but I mean, what's your prediction for the rest of the year on that? Because it seems like by the day, it's becoming less and less likely that they're actually going to cut rates, at least in the first half of the year.
Yeah. It was. People are saying that they're going to cut rates like what, three
Yeah, they
times,
claimed
3 to 5
someone's
times or
actually
something.
said 3 times, or is an estimate
Yeah.
in 2024.
But the latest inflation numbers showed that last month, inflation grew
Right.
slightly. It's kind of to be expected, though. And also, people are talking about consumer spending. It was December. It's Christmas. Of course,
Yeah.
consumer spending is going to go up.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a big deal. So I think there's always stuff that you see in the market. Like, oh, the Dow dropped 100 points today on news that it's like, that doesn't matter.
Right.
That's
Nothing goes in a straight line, up
no.
or down. So it does feel like that because of the news cycle the way it is. It's just like things are much more reactive.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and they're more reactive because people have the ability to be more reactive because they're all on their phones just buying and selling shit
yeah.
on their apps, on their Robinhood app, their trading account, whatever. Whenever they see something like that, it just spirals out of control, or it spirals upward.
Right.
Like is probably what happened with Bitcoin the
Well,
past year.
when that SEC tweet went out,
Mm-hmm.
supposedly hacked or erroneous, the price of Bitcoin spiked
Yeah.
like tremendously, and then they took it down. They said they were hacked, and then it like fell down, and it fell down way below it was even trading at.
Hmm.
So it was like someone was fucking with something, and someone, if they knew that was gonna happen, like could make a lot of fucking money. So
That's a good point.
that's something else to maybe dig into. And I guess the idea of, because everybody was talking about, hey, what is it they're expecting? Oh, the ETFs are approved. Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million. Like,
Right.
but it also has gone up what? Like 200, 300% in the past year,
Mm-hmm.
sort of in anticipation. So people were talking about, hey, is this kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of situation?
Yeah.
And it kind of seems like it has. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, people were accumulating over the past year in anticipation of this. They're already up kind of big. Hey, it's the new year. Let's take some profits off the table, and then maybe we'll get back in once sort of the dust settles, or
Yeah.
maybe after you see how the halving plays out or something like that. I personally am in for the long haul. I definitely
Yeah.
think we're
Same.
going to be. I think we're going to be higher at the end of this year than we are right now. Perhaps tremendously higher. If it goes in the pattern, like we'll hit a new all-time high this year, which could be like $100,000.
That'd be nice.
That'd be nice.
But yeah, I just whatever I have in it, that's sitting there like forever.
Yeah.
I mean, if it does hit super high, maybe I'll sell half of it. But that's kind of like a emergency fund it's speculative, obviously,
Yeah,
but
but I mean, you talked about this in one of your articles too. It's a play on the outrageous government sort of just money printing
right,
that seemingly no one can get under control.
right. The money printing, the inflation. Yeah, I think.
I mean, even just the privacy stuff, right? Um, people wanting to look at your transactions, or saying that can only buy certain things, or
Yeah, that is that's one way to look at it. But Bitcoin isn't as anonymous as people first thought, I
right.
think, because you can trace it back. Everything's open on an open ledger.
So if
So
you know that this person did, onboarded here, you can follow.
you can follow it, and I think the what people try to do is because you have to have a crypto wallet um, in order to spend it. So if you're doing something illegal, like using Bitcoin to buy drugs or something, you would just uh, not link your real name to your wallet.
Hmm.
And I think that's what people you would usually do. And that way, if somebody looked at it, they would be like, "Oh, it's John Smith," and
Hmm.
it's not your name. So,
Right.
but I think even then, they can still trace it back to you.
Yeah.
Never assume that what you're doing is anonymous. It's a terrible assumption to make.
No, yes, absolutely. Speaking of drugs, weed, weed. What is up with weed? Is it actually going to be legalized? Is is it finally? Is this going to be like Biden's final act um, as president in his first term, at
We'll
least?
see, man. We'll see. I, where we are now, the state of it, it doesn't look like they are talking about legalizing it like completely. But what they want to do is reschedule it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. Um,
So schedule. So I guess Schedule One right now is like the super bad stuff. I guess
yeah,
like
it's stuff that is.
cocaine. I guess like
Yeah,
is that
I think
like it's
that's
just
Schedule
all like
1.
the kind of like hard drugs that you
Yeah,
associate with that.
heroin,
Right.
LSD, ecstasy. I think they're things that they say are highly addictive and don't have any like accepted medical use.
Right.
So, but I mean, that's kind of that's all up for debate, which is kind of why this is coming to the forefront. I mean, weed as a medicine, they're really they're trying to reschedule it because if it gets rescheduled, it gives it more opportunity to be studied um, for medicinal uses. And same with other drugs too, like psilocybin, which is in magic mushrooms. Um, the
What schedule are those? Those
I
aren't
think they're
scheduled. They're
I think they're
Schedule
one.
One as
Yeah,
well.
I think so.
Okay, so it could be one where they like move them all over. I think I was looking at the Schedule Three list, and it was stuff kind of like steroids
Hmm.
and like testosterone. Like there
Interesting.
was a lot of testosterone things on there. So I think it's kind of like stuff where in special cases, doctors are going to prescribe it. People have
Right.
a lot of people have been, they get put on quote unquote steroids or a
Yeah.
steroid
Yeah.
for many different medical reasons, at least for a short period of time. Um, Whereas the other ones you kind of associate with, so it definitely makes sense in terms of moving it to that other
Hmm.
other end. What's interesting though is that it's already legal, quote unquote legal, for recreational use in like a ton of states,
Yeah.
including Maryland, where we where we are right now. So you can literally just go buy
Right.
weed
It
recreation
doesn't make
without you
any
don't need
sense.
a doctor
No.
prescription. So like
Well, you need a
what
doctor's prescription to get like the stronger
the
stuff,
strong stuff,
but
okay, the good shit.
yeah. Um,
So yeah, it doesn't. It really is interesting how it's quote unquote Schedule One illegal federally,
yeah. I can go right
and
around the corner.
and you can go right around the corner and
Well,
you can just buy
but
some.
that's the thing. You could always do that anyway. If you're somebody who wants to buy weed, you're gonna find out a way to buy weed. So they're just facilitating it.
But now it's 100% legal. Like you always had to kind of worry, like, hey, like I can get arrested for this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
I can.
that's a good point.
You wouldn't. You know,
Like driving around or something,
right.
you definitely
Yeah,
get in trouble.
and what's interesting too is you compare it to say like alcohol, right? Which is 100% legal, but there's restrictions on it, obviously like an age restriction and all that. And I mean, a lot of people would argue that that is much more dangerous for society and for people as a whole
Hmm.
than marijuana. Um,
Yeah.
so it's sort of this weird situation, but I guess we'll kind of see what happens. I mean, is there is there a play or a type of thing that would potentially cause a seed change if it becomes Schedule 3 or whatever? Like, will there just be this massive sort of like bullishness on it, or like
Yeah.
will it just mean more opportunities for the companies that are already playing in
I,
there?
I think that's the way to look at it. And I've been trying to figure this out myself, so I'm glad you asked that, but I think that's the way to look at it, where it's just going to open up the opportunity for current companies to get more money, do more research. People will be able to use. So if it gets or if it gets rescheduled, people will ideally be able to use their credit cards when they go to the
Right, because the
store.
banking, even in Maryland, I guess, even in recreational, they're still kind of like a cash business, right? Because they're
Yeah,
scared of the banks, because the banks are federally sort of regulated,
right.
not being able to. Um,
So I don't know if that's based on rescheduling, but I know that
that
there's a
probably wouldn't
bill
even matter either. So, and let's clarify. There's rescheduling, but then there's also descheduling,
descheduling, which is what should actually happen.
which is basically nothing. It's like
It's
I don't know,
just
tobacco. You know, I guess
yeah.
tobacco is not is tobacco is scheduled. I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
So if it's descheduled, it's obviously better than rescheduling. But a lot of people think rescheduling is at least a step in the right direction, and then it
Yes.
could eventually lead to descheduling, which would be just an all-out
Yeah. What
frenzy, I
makes
guess,
what?
an all-out weed party across the country.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, it is just is alcohol a scheduled drug?
I don't think
No,
so,
it's not.
right?
It's not.
No.
That's nuts.
So, um, you know, and that's the thing is once the money comes behind and people actually get all their ducks in a row and they realize how much money they can make on this, including the tax revenue, which is I think the
Hmm.
biggest argument for the states to legalize it is they just want the tax revenue.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with online or gambling
Hmm.
and online gambling. People are like, wait a minute, this state is getting all this money from our taxpayers just going across the state and gambling or buying whatever. Like,
Yeah, it's a
we
lot of money.
we would like that. Um, so that's interesting. So you're more on the side of, hey, maybe you have some sort of marijuana company and you're operating in 15 states, but if it's rescheduled, that might open it or descheduled, that might
Hmm.
open up the door for you to expand into all 50 states, or
Yeah.
more
Just
than need to.
yeah, and just increase your revenue and that I think there would be like another kind of like second because we already had the weed stock mania. I think there would definitely be a second one if this happened, but I don't think that it would really be justified. I mean, you have to look at the companies, see what they're selling, see what they're doing.
Well, and it
Um,
seems like too, it potentially, I don't, are any of these big, like quote unquote, big tobacco kind of companies or anything like getting into it? It seems like mostly more younger, like focused companies that are in there. So if that happens, maybe some of the bigger players are like, because there was always this idea that like, Philip, or it's not Philip Morris anymore.
I think it is, isn't
Is
it?
it still Philip Morris?
Yeah.
These big tobacco players that have all this distribution capabilities with their cigarettes, that they're just waiting for the shoe to drop, and then boom, they're gonna turn on the weed faucets,
Hmm.
and you'll be able to get weed cigarettes at 7-Eleven.
Well, there's Altria, right?
Altria. Yeah, that's the old Philip Morris, right?
I thought Philip Morris was still
Okay.
I thought it was separate, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm
Um,
confusing those big guys, but they're obviously they do more than um, tobacco, cigarette stuff, but they're big players in that game, and sort of the common notion is that they're going to expand out into marijuana, but
yeah,
I guess we'll see.
we will just have to wait and see.
So, all right, but it sounds like you're leaning more towards the psilocybin mushroom and as like a bigger upside potential than marijuana at this point.
I like that. I like that play. I'm still holding some psilocybin companies in my personal portfolio. They've kind of had some big runs where I've been like, I should probably sell this, but I'm just like, I'm just holding on to them. I do think that the upside there is greater. We also have the DEA. There was an article that came out, and the DEA said we are committed to finding new and innovative ways to meet the needs of the research community. He says research is the bedrock of science, and we will. Well, that sentence doesn't make any sense. And anyway, the DEA wants to expedite studying psilocybin
Right.
and other drugs like MDMA and ketamine
Mm-hmm.
and weed as well. So I think that's a good move, showing that the feds, the DEA wants people to study it.
Yeah, that seems
And
like a precursor to, ultimately, having the conversation about, because who is it that actually reschedules the drugs? Is it the DEA?
mm-hmm.
The DEA is in charge.
I'm pretty
of
sure
that.
it's the DEA.
Yeah. So, and which is, a federal. So, when people say, oh, Biden's going to legalize, do all these stuffs, typically what they're implying is that he's going to, quote unquote, instruct whoever's in charge of the DEA to do something. And they'll be like, okay, Uncle Joe, I guess we'll do this. Of course, whether that's done prior to the election or during this election year, it's interesting to, quote unquote, if that becomes a potential, voting issue,
Yeah, and so it could, if he does do that before the election, it could kind of backfire especially with like the evangelical vote and the
Right.
super conservative vote. I mean, they're not going to vote for him anyway, but
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if that comes up, because you would, in theory, I don't know, he's the president now. So what's he going to say? Like, hey, if you reelect me, then I'll get you, your weed or whatever.
And I'll forgive your student loans.
And I'll forgive even more. But he already did that. Yeah, he's got to have another carrot to dangle, I guess, to get reelected, I suppose. So, all right. Well, that is very interesting takes. Is there any other hot topics we need to cover before we go out? I've been, crypto seems to be the big one that is on everybody's radar right now.
I think it just reminded me of possibly. So the whole debacle that happened with Boeing.
You mean with the plane, with the the plane falling apart?
Yes.
Now the door. So what happened? The door just came off in mid-flight.
So what I read was like some of the planes that they ordered, the smaller ones didn't need an exit door like on the side of the plane at a certain part. So instead of that, they had like a little kind of like a window instead installed, and I guess they didn't tighten it down hard enough or something.
So that wasn't even
that
wasn't even an exit door.
I don't think. No, I think it was like a port is what they were calling it, like a So on the other planes there is a door there, but on this specific one there was
so it was almost like a little filler piece that they put in there. This doesn't need to have that. Let's put something else with like a window, like a special window on it, and that's what blew open.
Yeah.
In the middle of flight.
Yeah. Fuck that. So I'm just. This is something that's been going on with Boeing. Obviously, with the 737 Max.
That was the one that crashed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was a Max plane too,
well.
Max 9, I guess they were calling it.
The updated version of that, I think.
Why don't they just they ought to just get rid of the
Max
gotta stop branding?
Yeah.
I would have gotten rid of that from the get-go.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, I think it was the last time I flew. This was like right after those planes crashed. And I was like, this isn't a Max, is it? And they were like, no. I'm like, okay, good. It was a nice plane, though. The new ones are super nice. But that just kind of reminded me that with those problems, and Boeing was, an American stalwart. Just everybody had confidence in them, right? And this stuff happens, but it really does. They're kind of leaving the door open a little bit for other manufacturers, and I think we should be looking at Airbus and even other companies. I have one in my portfolio, in my insider stakeout portfolio, that has some insider buying, and I think this has raised it. It's up. I think this week it's up like 5 or 6%. But it's a different type of flying company. It's those EVTOLs.
Okay, yeah, those are becoming. You're hearing a lot about those.
Yeah, and I think it's either this year or next year they're actually going to be flying out of Chicago. So,
and I, for some reason, when I picture those, I picture like just one or two like man things. Are they bigger ones too, where you can carry like more passengers, or is it mostly kind of like you have a group of people that they're all they want to almost like rent it? It's more like a taxi.
It's more like a taxi.
More like a taxi, as opposed to like what they're doing with planes, where they're
yeah. It would be cool to see like if they're gonna go for longer distances.
Mm-hmm. And they're electric powered.
The electric motors. Yeah.
They're electric motors. So yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of whether those batteries are.
Yeah, I mean that's the expense of that. They're heavy.
Yeah,
the batteries are heavy, but
yeah, everything relies on batteries these days, and making them last longer. So that's interesting. Yeah, I think, and Boeing took a hit after that. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming
they did. But there's a lot of money behind Boeing, and I mean, I hope they figure it out, because obviously that's like such a huge part of the economy. That company has a lot of money in it, and it would just be good for them to, and for everybody who's flying, their peace of mind to figure it out.
Well, and no one died.
Yeah, no one died.
No one died. Unlike the first Max situation, where freaking planes just went down, so. But it's one of those things. It's like, well, Jesus, do you have quality control? And exactly. Look, I understand, I couldn't fucking build a plane, you know what I mean? This is really complicated shit. But you do wonder, what their process is in terms of testing some of this stuff, and it's not like some of the things you can kind of just put out there and cars get recalled all the time mm-hmm. for stuff, and planes, it's a big thing that
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's just a basic, it's logic. If you're reading something and there's an error in it, you're like, oh well, I wonder where else, what else is wrong with this piece that you're reading, and same with. It just makes you think, and that's not what you want to be doing.
Nope.
You want to be,
Nope, absolutely. All right, well, thanks again for joining us on the Angel Research Podcast. Anybody who's listening, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, particularly the comments. Let us know what you think. I think a lot of people have been letting us know, and sometimes they're pretty funny. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're a little silly, but a lot of times they're pretty good, and it helps us figure out what people want to discuss on here, and we'll keep doing it. So thanks again, Alex.
Yeah, thanks.
See ya.